Woo! All right, hey guys. This is Terry with NSPS TV Paranormal Podcast. What is every how? Well, not what. How is everybody doing on Easter Sunday? Ah man, it's been a very interesting day. I'm doing okay, but you guys, you know what today is? It's Sunday, and tonight I got a guest that's we're gonna talk to him a little bit and see what he's thinking. Tonight he's in the Lions Den, man. You guys that's been with me, long enough to know what the Lions Den is all about. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna get into that here in a minute. But a quick shout out to everybody that's joining me on the show this evening. All you guys that are international, all you guys are international Japan, international UK, all you guys on TikTok, Rumble, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and my personal Facebook page. So, hey guys, welcome to the show. I appreciate you guys coming out of your busy day to join me. Also, with all you guys that are on Tim's social media, he has logged in with StreamYard, so he's able to, see a little bit um, from his social media. So all you guys on that part, welcome to the show also. You know what I'm saying? But with enough said, let's go ahead and get this party started. Tonight, like I say, in the Lions Den, we have 10 rows. 10 rows is for hashtag paranormal from the bluegrass state of Kentucky. So, but with that being said, Tim, introduce yourself, brother.
My name is Tim Rose. I've been a paranormal investigator for probably about 12 years now. Kind of been into the paranormal since I was a teenager. Had some experiences in former home that I lived in that kind of piqued my interest a lot. Right now, I run the podcast hashtag Paranormal, and I also run the group that's called Casper, and that's with a K, and that stands for Kentucky Association of Supernatural and Paranormal Entity Research. Um, we do a lot of investigations at different locations, a lot of public places, but we also do some home visits as well. So, got a pretty good team behind me. I've got several that I trust really well. We came from a group that was called Paranormal Connections here in Kentucky. And that group kind of went to the wayside a little bit for a little while. So it was kind of, I guess, put on pause to say. But so I took off on my own. I had a few people that were on the team that still wanted to do some investigation. And I wasn't done with it by any means. So just kind of jumped off the deep end and started my own team up and started the podcast back up. And here I am today.
Okay, well, you know what, man? I really appreciate you coming out of your busy day to come chat with me. And let's let's have some fun with this one.
We
Uh,
will.
as people know me, man, I am a very um, I'm not the average podcaster. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
like to have fun. I like to
Yeah.
enjoy the moment. And I like to ask questions that a lot of people don't get a chance to ask. So I'm going to continue with the same with you. And just feel free. If you got a soda or beer or some water or whatever you care to drink, just feel free to drink it and enjoy the moment. So, with that being said, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Some of them you're going to have the Arsenio Hall moment. It's going to make you say, hmm. It's going to make you think for a moment. You know what I'm saying? Some of them you probably heard before, some of them you haven't, but man, something bit me at the pool. I don't know, man. Mosquitoes here in Texas are getting bad early. I got a big whip on me.
Yeah, I got tore up yesterday. We yesterday was my daughter's first high school prom, and we went out and did a photo shoot for her and things like that. And one of them got me pretty good. We were pretty close to some water, and I got a pretty good whelp on my side from one. So they're already here in Kentucky too, and they're thick already.
Okay. First high school prom, huh?
First high school prom. Yep.
How'd that go for her?
It went really well. They walked in and did their thing there, and then the school up here does an after party thing, and they took them all to like a Dave and Buster's, but I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Malibu Jacks, and they locked them in there until 4 this morning. They were playing games and video games and everything like that there, and she had a good time. She was
Okay.
excited.
Well, good, man. Do she realize that time is running short for her?
I think she finally figured that out, and it kind of opened my eyes yesterday too because I watched my baby girl go off with a stranger. Well, he's not really a stranger. She's dated him for about a year, but still kind
Yeah.
of not a good feeling for old dad.
No, dude. I mean, I'm sorry, but I would have chaperoned. I would
Yeah.
have hid behind some cars or behind a video game just to make sure that what nothing weird going on.
Yeah, yeah,
One thing I do know about proms is they're a little different from when we had proms. I mean, I'm not for sure how old you are, uh, but back when I had prom, man, I think it was a little bit more expensive than it was now because, dude, I mean, the school district pretty much picks the most expensive hotel you can
uh,
go to that you can have a prom in, and of course we had the ballroom. So we'll go dance in the ballroom, have a DJ, eat, and after that, whatever happens happens. As
mhm.
long as nobody come back, with anything. But you get in the picture.
Yeah, yeah. That's
You get in the picture.
I'm 45, and ours was kind of that way. I mean, it was expensive, which now they actually do it in the school gymnasium here, and so it's
Right.
not that bad. A lot of the expenses with the dress and the tux and the flowers and all that.
Yeah. I mean, the dress, I think that, man, the dresses, the dresses today, dude, are a little bit more expensive. I think they're a little bit more expensive now than what they were back then. The tux, man, tuxes were, you can rent the tux by the hour, or by the day or whatever it was. I think
Mhm.
I rented mine by the day. I had to be back the next day or whatever, but
Yeah.
man, and the limo. I mean, today's kids are driving more expensive cars than what the parents are driving.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
I mean, renting a limo really was considered top notch.
Yeah.
But now, shit, no. I mean, these kids today are driving Porsches, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and uh, Audis, and all kind of weird cars, man, that are very expensive, and that go from there. You know what I'm saying? But hey, long she had a great time, dude, and that's all important right there. It's a
Yeah.
lifetime of memories, and I hope the guy, I hope you had that long talk with him. Make sure he did the right thing. Make sure he had her home, treated her right, and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's scared of me. I'm a
You
bigger
know what I'm
guy, so
saying?
he I don't have to say too much to him.
Oh yeah, it kind of remind me of that movie with Ice T, not Ice T, Ice Cube's son in there. Was that Ice Cube's son when he was gone for and all the uncle was in the garage and they say, "What you do to my daughter is what I'm going to do to you. So you better make sure she's all right and make
Yeah.
sure she gets home by 11." The Den of Thieves. Yeah, it was called the Den of Thieves.
Den of Thieves. Yep.
I don't know. Yeah, so that was a pretty good one. All right, dude. Hey, I don't know how we got off that topic there, but let's jump back on topic. Hey, man, we're gonna start this show off a little bit different. Um, you know, but it is everything's always weird on this end. A paranormal investigator, dude. Man, it, it it's a hard profession. Whether you call it a profession or some people call it a part-time gig, some people talk, it depends on what you call it.
Yeah.
We can both agree that it's something not to take lightly.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest questions that I have trouble with that people have a hard time answering is why are so many people are uh what's the word I'm working? Why are so people thrilled? Why are so people wanting to indulge themselves in such a dangerous profession?
You know, I think that kind of goes off of curiosity. A lot of people, and most of the people that I've come across in the supernatural and paranormal, something's happened to them when they were young. They've caught a glimpse of something, and it just kind of intrigued them, and they want to know what's out there now. We've done some conventions, and a lot of the people that actually showed up there were older people, which really surprised me. It wasn't so many young
Mhm.
people, and I kind of wonder if they were at the point in life where they're wondering what's next, where what is out there, what's coming, what's happening, and that's the big question for me. I want to know what else is out there. I believe in aliens. I believe in cryptids as well, and I've had a lot of strange experiences that just led my curiosity and brought me into this field. So I kind of think it would probably be that way for everyone else too. They've had some little something happen along the way.
Now, it's weird because is a big, curiosity is a big word for me. Now, a lot of people are curious for a lot of different reasons.
Mhm,
A lot of people are curious for preparation.
mhm.
And, a lot of people get curious because they want to prepare themselves
Yeah.
for what's ahead. Do you think that's the case in some instances?
I actually do. I think people are worried about what's going to happen after they pass away, and I think that piques their curiosity and kind of draws them in, so they're prepared for what is next.
Now, do you think that because we all know, man, everything that goes on this planet is different, and everything never happens to the person on this planet twice. If something happened to you, it's a good chance it won't be the same with me, and so on and so on and so on. So, how is it that
Yeah.
being prepared can pique my curiosity? I mean, because we don't know if what happens to this person might not happen to that person. You know,
Well,
it.
I'm not exactly sure there because I guess people perceive everything completely different. I mean, we could be sitting somewhere and watch the exact same thing happen, and both of us tell a totally different story as to what happened as the way we perceive it. So, and it very well may be that way that the afterlife is what you perceive of it.
Mm, yeah, you could be right. You mentioned a word that's very, very controversial,
Mhm,
and I want to jump into that right quick. You said
mhm.
supernatural. Now, a lot of people think supernatural and paranormal are two different things. What do you think?
Not so much. I mean, they kind of coincide. I call supernatural things more like the cryptid side and just the above normal things. The paranormal, I kind of put it off as its own little class of different things that happen to a person, like a personal thing. And the supernatural, I kind of put that off to a more crowd, like 3 or 4 people seeing a UFO, 3 or 4 people seeing a dog man. And that's just my classification. That I'm sure not everyone classifies that way, but that's just kind of my classification for the 2.
Okay. Yeah, because the supernatural. Because when you think of supernatural, I'm thinking about things that's never been alive.
Mhm. Yep,
You know,
absolutely.
that's why I guess that's the reason why it piqued my curiosity. So when we mention supernatural, we're always thinking about demons
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But it's kind of weird, because a lot of people don't like mention the supernatural word because it's something that scares them.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of people in the paranormal field, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think a lot of people have indulged in that particular spectrum of the paranormal community, of supernatural, because of what it allegedly represents.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. I know a couple of people that have that indulges in it, but
Mhm.
a lot of people try to stay away from that for some weird reason.
And they do, because I feel like the supernatural, that's more things that are harmful to you. Like you said, that's things that have never really walked this earth, like your demons, your elementals, um, fae, whatever you want to call these spirits, that they haven't lived and they'll hurt you. I mean, in the paranormal, I consider that more ghostly happenings, stuff that's actually lived before. But like you said, the supernatural, it's our previous team didn't do any supernatural work at all. It was strictly paranormal. We would come in and try to help people that were afflicted or suffering any kind of ghost activity. And if we could help move it on or reassure them, we did so. The supernatural, I've done some cryptid hunting. I've not really dove into the alien part so much, but I'm kind of going there. Now I've Bigfoot hunted and not had any luck, but I still there's too many people talking about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and all these cryptids for them not to be around, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot more than what people. I think there's a lot more out there than what people are saying. That that's just me.
Yeah.
I know there's been a big sighting of Bigfoot sightings here in Texas, and which is a little unusual because Bigfoot is not known for being around in South Texas. You know anything about South Texas? South Texas is like a desert.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's really not. That's really not a place where Bigfoot want to be caught. It's hot. It's dry. But there is an abundance of food there. I mean, you got deer, boar, you got wild hog. So maybe it's just following the food source. I I don't know, but but it can't be no different than the piney woods out in East Texas,
Yeah.
where there's an abundance, a real abundance of food out there. There's plenty of water for them to drink, and there's plenty of place to hide out there. But I don't know, man. Bigfoot hanging out in South Texas, dude. He's following somebody or something's going on because it's really not a big. Hell, I don't even like hanging out in South Texas. Uh, I don't even think the people down in South Texas like hanging out in South Texas. So yeah, it's one of those things that you got to make you want to go, why is he hanging out down there?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Uh, dude, tell me what you think about Hollywood. I'm curious to know what you think particular about Hollywood. A lot of people don't care for Hollywood, but Hollywood is a city, it makes a lot of movies there, makes a lot of TV shows there.
Mhm.
Whether you think that, the paranormal shows there, you think they got it right or you think they got it wrong. What do you think from your own perspective?
Well, I think a lot of that is it's glamorized. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can catch them doing on those shows if you pay attention that really didn't happen. So I think it's kind of glamorized because I've been on so many investigations and we'll sit there all night and not get anything. And then the shows, these guys, they come back with evidence almost every single time. So I think a lot of it's theatrics. I really do. And I hate that because I feel like it throws a thorn into the side of paranormal investigators that are trying to do what's right and trying to go by not faking evidence, because I know even a lot of the YouTubers out there, they're faking their stuff. No one gets that kind of evidence every trip out. It You can walk into the most active place in the world and the energy just be low and you don't get anything. So I think a lot of it is for theatrics. I think a lot of it's clickbait and for views. And I hate that. I really do, because I feel our field could go so much further if people were more truthful.
Now, what do you think in your own in your own thinking? What do you think it's really holding our community back from being successful? And actually, bro, actually being at the part of the scientific table. I mean, to be honest with you, man, there are so many. The table is so long, and there are so many different types of individuals there that represent different communities, scientifically wise. But why is it that paranormal investigators, parapsychologists, are not sitting at that table yet? It's mind-boggling.
It is, and I think that still, I think it goes back to fear. I think that the paranormal is still just so taboo with so many people that people don't want to actively engage with it or respect it at all. And it's everything that we talk about is basically our theory. I mean, right now there's no proven right or wrong with paranormal investigation. And I think when people start taking it more seriously in these establishments, like the big colleges, I think that it'll pick up and I think it'll actually excel. And I feel if anyone ever gets that first credible piece of evidence that you can absolutely put out there and no one can say, hey, this is fake, I think it's
But
going to take that in order for our field to be actually recognized and for people to actually respect it.
yeah, and and I think me personally, I think once you get that respect, you get that significant evidence and you present it to the community, and that's where you get the funding from. That's
Yeah,
where you get the big universities.
yeah,
Even though some of them are do have parapsychology, in their universities, and some
mhm,
of them, and like some of our high schools here in Texas, we do have that as an elective here in Texas. But the thing is, uh, Tim, nobody is taking it seriously.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like you're saying, nobody is want to push that button and say, "Let's see how far can we really go with this."
yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
yeah, exactly. I've always said like Bigfoot, the first person to actually capture, kill a Bigfoot is going to be the most famous person in the world. And then people are going to believe. But it takes, and I guess it goes to faith. People have to physically be able to see something to believe it. And I think
Yeah.
that's what it's gonna take for the paranormal, is for something to actually be there so credible that there's no question that it actually happened.
Now, once that happens, man, can you imagine the critics that's going to come out of the woodworks?
Oh, I know.
You're going to be on CNN. You're going to have a panel. You might have two that are with you, but the other five are going to be critics. They're going to
Mhm.
dissect. They're going to break basically, they're going to break you down.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
going to break you down to see, if you're credible, if what you say, if you
absolutely.
stick to what you say. So whoever and it's and for an example, Tim. So if somebody was to do that, it would have to be somebody out of our community that that will have to represent us as a whole.
Yeah. I think it would have to be someone that's very, very established, and, I don't think it would be a luck of a draw kinda thing, because I think, like you said, people would tear it apart if it isn't someone that's credible, that comes forward with the evidence, I think people would just tear it apart and think it was a hoax.
And I think you're right. And I'm going to be honest with you. The first people that will come at you will be the religion aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Your Christian based people,
Mhm.
your Southern Baptist people, your Catholics. These are the ones they're going to come at you first. They're going to come at you with the you're going to be the nail, and these guys are going to be the hammer. They're
Yeah.
going to come at you with everything that they got.
Mhm.
Because if you are proved right for it for just a minute, do you know what happens to the religious aspect of this whole thing when
Absolutely.
people, man,
Yeah,
it
I
would
mean,
be
it would almost break down society. It in a sense because everything that everyone's been taught would go out the window. I mean, we would be rewriting history.
exactly rewriting history.
Yeah.
Now, the powers that be, they don't want that. They
No.
content on what they are happy the way things are now.
Mhm.
You know, uh, and if they had it that way, no matter how much evidence you had, if aliens was to fucking land on the White House lawn,
They would try to cover it over.
they'll try to cover it up.
Mhm.
You know, if the aliens like they did in Miami, if the aliens was to zoop in that damn
Shopping mall.
mall in Miami, dude, they did everything they did to cover it up.
Oh yeah, they
They didn't-
scrubbed every bit of that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what the big thing was with TikTok here. The TikTok ban was to just get all that information off there and scrub it because a lot of the channels I followed, they're not there anymore.
Right, Anita, feel free to ask Tim of questions. Yes, please do. Uh, this is what this podcast is about. So if you got any questions to ask this young man, feel free to ask. You know, it's an open discussion.
Absolutely. But
Open
you
discussion.
you think about it, you had the Men in Black that were created just to shut people up that were witnessing all the alien activity, and they would come in and threaten bodily harm and everything, according to all the reports that have been told.
All the reports, and from what I heard, I don't know who took up all the cell phones from that location in Miami last year, but apparently somebody went around collecting over, man, 1,600 cell phones.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you they scrubbed every bit of evidence that was on any of those phones.
And
'Cause they don't want that.
and it was crazy because the cameras in the video, I mean the cameras, what is it? Those cameras, the cameras that was in the mall, I know they were much clearer than that, but the way
Yeah.
they presented it was like you could see something, but it might not be nothing, but probably it's something because you can see it moving. And I'm like, come on, guys, y'all are killing me with this, you
Well,
know.
I'm sure they doctored that footage as well because my wife actually works security, and the camera setup that they have, you can zoom in and you can almost tell what someone's watching on their cell phone. They're so clear. So
Oh yeah,
all that
that's
staticky crap they put out, that's yeah, they did something to cover that footage over and just tried to make it look like old grainy footage from an old security camera because nowadays, come on, man, cameras are 5K, 4K. They're clear. It's nothing
clear.
like what they were showing. Yeah.
And and to this day, you really don't hear much from it. Nobody,
No.
even social media, don't even bring it up
No.
anymore. Uh, you know, it's just laid to the wayside, like everything else
Mhm.
that comes big news. It'll get thrown to the wayside. Uh, how old's your daughter?
My daughter is almost 16.
16. Now,
Mhm.
is she a future paranormal investigator?
She actually has been several places with me, and she's kind of sensitive to different kinds of energy. She gets more pictures than I've ever gotten the whole time I've been out because she'll physically see objects with her own eyes. Then
Mm,
she'll pick up her phone and snap a pic, and then sure enough, there'll be a shadow or an orb or something floating through there.
okay. Because you mentioned something earlier about YouTube, and
Mhm.
YouTubers they're a different breed of people.
Yeah,
Whether you believe in some of their stuff or not, the one thing that irritates me about this generation of paranormal investigators, the ones that aren't quite here yet, dude, they are going by what Zach Baggins is doing, saying. So their whole terminology and learning on how to be a paranormal investigator is his way.
yeah, yeah.
So
And
how do we?
that's
Yeah.
that's so unfortunate. That's one of
So
the things I try to do with my podcast is
how do
actually
we?
educate people.
Yeah, how do we change that with the generation of kids that are not paying attention to us, but paying attention more to the celebrity that's not doing the right thing?
And I think that goes back to everything being glamorized by Hollywood. These kids are watching this stuff and they're taking it to be true. They're not taking it as theatrics. They're actually believing what's going on in these videos and taking it as truth. And it's not. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's not. I think probably the only thing we're going to be able to do is the community as a whole, all of us that do these podcasts, is try to educate people as what actually goes on, what we actually perceive to go on, because I'm no expert. I mean, I think I am, but I'm not. So, like I said, I try to educate people, and I hope I'm helping. But who knows? I mean, with all the stuff you've got going on mainstream TV, it's out there, and unfortunately, these kids are soaking it up.
Oh man, they're soaking it up, dude. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy, and and people have to understand is, it's not people. I can't blame people. I have to go back to kids. The younger generation have to understand. Some of them do, some of them get it, but
Mhm.
most of them don't. Fame and fortune comes with the price.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Fame and fortune comes with the price, and it can be good or bad.
Yeah.
I had a discussion. I got into an argument with a couple people out of Missouri that were, they're in this tap community.
Yeah.
I didn't think tabs had their own community of paranormal investigators, but they do.
Yeah, they do.
So the question, and me, I love asking questions. The biggest question that I had for them was, do you think did y'all think that tabs uh, forged anything? Do you think they did anything that they shouldn't be doing? And the podcast went south after that. And
And
they were like, well, no, man, if Tabs did anything like that, man, we would know it. And the first thing I say, no, you wouldn't.
no,
You wouldn't know it.
no.
Well, next thing I say, well, if you think Tabs did anything wrong, we could just get off the podcast right now. And I said, no, we're not, because you knew what this podcast was about when you knew I was going to ask you questions about it
Yeah.
before this podcast even started. So no, I'm not going to get off the podcast, and we're going to continue with this like gentlemen, whether we can debate about it or not. And that's what it's about. Your opinion, my opinion. We come together. We have a simple understanding whether I believe in your opinion or not. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, Taps did make millions of dollars off their TV show.
Absolutely.
You know, whether they believed, I mean, whether they did it or not, I don't care what you say. Some of the locations that you went to, they went to. Come on, dude. It seemed like every place they went, they picked up something.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You're going to these places, the groups that are doing these investigations like TAPS, um, Baggins and his bunch, I'm sure when they first started off, yeah, they probably had the best of intentions. They probably wanted to be legit. They wanted to get good evidence. They wanted to do a good job. But once they signed on with Hollywood, you've got a production team following you around, and they say they record everything on their own, but that's bullcrap. They've got cameramen with them. I know they do. You've got a production team. You're paying for this location. People don't pay to watch nothing happen. So I'm sure there's producers, executives in there saying, hey, you got to make something happen. Because at that point, once Hollywood gets a hold of it, it's not credible anymore. It's entertainment. I mean,
Exactly.
and that's basically it. It's entertainment. They want you to have a show, and they're going to make a show regardless if it's true or not. So yeah, I'm sure Taps as a whole probably started off with good intentions, but they've probably faked stuff as well. I mean, I don't see how they couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. But it seems like everybody just get brainwashed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, because of who these people are and what they represent. And I can't, and much I want to tell people, I like, dude, one significant group don't represent a community.
Absolutely.
So what these guys are doing, you know, it's not right. Now, if the community as a whole was to come together and they was to see what these guys are doing, it's a good chance they be 86. You're out of there, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is not who we are. This is not what we represent
Yeah.
as a community. And I just wish, like you were talking about earlier, somebody that wants to represent us as a whole should stand up and do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's it's really hard for one individual, that doesn't have that willpower. But if you got one individual that has that willpower and has that mindset, anything anything can be accomplished, out there. But dude, it's really hard. Uh, man, parapsychology in the high schools. We talked about it
Mm-hmm.
a few minutes ago. Colleges, some of the colleges have parapsychology, but it's become such a normal conversation here in Texas, especially uh, in the North Texas area, up by the
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, Arlington, Fort Worth. Some of the school districts had decided to go ahead and put parapsychology as an elective in the schools. What do you think about that?
I think that's a really good thing because while kids are still young, I think they need to experience that to kind of challenge themselves because they're young, they're forming their belief system. And I think they should know that that stuff's out there. So I think it's a good idea that anyone that wants to be able to learn has the opportunity to do so. I wish when I graduated, when I was in high school, we had had something like that as an elective. But
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a great. The only downside is and which I see it. You know, you can teach about it, you can listen and learn about it, but
mhm,
until you get out there and actually, get out there and actually investigate, you know, it's totally two different things.
it is. It is.
You know what I'm saying? You can teach all day, but until you get that field training, you're not going to feel the difference. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You got to get that training. And that's the only problem that, that we're coming out with this is kids are able to learn about it, but they're not able to get the field training about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
And
saying? So,
yeah. And most of these kids, they go about it the wrong way too if they are getting into ghost hunting because I have a young gentleman here in Kentucky that actually goes and breaks in places to do paranormal. And I don't think that's right. I think if you're young and you want to learn about the paranormal, if you don't have the classes available, you need to find a good team that's credible around your area and kind of just maybe talk to them and see if you can hang out with them and see if it's for you. I mean, go out
Yeah.
on a couple of investigations, learn the ropes, and decide then whether it's something that you want to pursue or not. There's a better way to go about it than just going into some place you think's haunted and go in and try to provoke spirits or maybe gain an attachment and bring it back home to terrorize your family. And there's, yeah, be safe about it, guys.
Yeah, because it, it can definitely be frightening. It can definitely be everything that you can think of. It can definitely, you know, do some things to you.
Yeah,
You know, hold on for a sec. Okay, let's see here. Are you able to see the comments?
I am. Should we
Yeah, that's
take?
a pretty funny.
Should we leave them where? Where are we leaving them at?
They're going to be at the bottom of the screen. Do you think we should send Katy Perry and Russell Brand and leave them? I have
That's
no.
what I was at. What I was asking is where we were going to leave them at.
Yeah,
Yeah, we should leave them somewhere.
somewhere. Exactly. Uh, Tim, are your parents still around?
My father is. My mother passed away when I was 24, but my father, he's still alive. He's
What
one of.
and what do you think about what you do?
At first, he didn't really like it. Where I'm at here in Kentucky, I am right in the middle of the Bible Belt. Anything that has the word paranormal in it here is automatically devil worship. Doesn't matter. It took my whole family to convince my dad that I wasn't selling my soul to Satan. He would call my sisters. I would tell him I was going somewhere to ghost hunt. Oh, you need to stop that. You need to stop that. And he would tell my sisters that I was going to hell. And my sisters finally looked at him and said, Dad, have you ever watched any of the ghost hunting shows on TV? Yeah. Well, that's what he's doing. So he didn't agree with it at first, but now I can tell him that I went somewhere and he'll ask me, well, did you catch anything? What happened? So he's kind of come around to it. And that's one of the things here in Kentucky. The paranormal, where we are in the Bible Belt, it's still so taboo that people don't talk about it. If in the area I'm in, it's still much, much like it was 70 years ago. If you're doing something and you're experiencing something paranormal, it's automatically you've done something to attach to yourself. You're living in sin. You're breaking some kind. You're being punished, and it's not a lot of people talk about it. We get some home investigations here and there, and the people are very private. They don't want anyone to know what's going on. A lot of times, we've been told that we can't do any kind of live video at these places, and they don't want anyone to know. They want help, but they don't want anyone to know. And I feel like as a whole that there's a lot going on here in Kentucky that no one talks about, and they don't get the help
Hmm.
they need because they're afraid to say anything.
Interesting. It says now I don't know if this is true or not. It says that Kentucky, some parts of Kentucky, it's never been touched by man. You know,
Uh,
so you have to take account
mhm.
of that. If there is some parts of a state that's not even the size of Texas. I mean, it's probably way smaller than Texas, and there's some areas out there that's never been.
Yeah.
There's no trash. There's no nothing. There's no footprint. There's no man has not touched. It make you wonder what else is going on out there.
And that's kind of where I'm at here in Kentucky. I am about 20 minutes away from an area that's called the Red River Gorge, and it's part of the Daniel Boone National Forest System here in Kentucky. And there's hundreds and hundreds of miles of just forest, dense forest that anything could be in there. And like you said, a lot of it hasn't been explored. So there's no telling what's in there.
Yeah, there's no telling. Anita is asking, can you sing her a country song?
Unfortunately, I'm not a very good singer. I've got the southern twang that some of them have, but I'm not a very good singer, so I don't think you want to hear that.
Well, I think
Well,
Kentucky is. Me personally, I thought Kentucky was known for more bluegrass than country.
it is. There's a big bluegrass following in Kentucky.
Yeah, I can dig some bluegrass.
Yeah,
Bluegrass is good, but country music, I like country. I like the old country. I don't like the new country.
yeah.
The, the new,
I don't like the new pop country stuff they've got going on now.
hey, my man, Kenny.
Hmm.
I could do some Kenny all day long, and I'm not talking Kenny Chesney.
I don't, Kenny Rogers.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I can do some Kenny Rogers all day long. That dude's his music, all his songs has meaning to it.
Yeah.
Something you can understand, you can gravitate to,
Yeah.
But today, and what's I say? Kenny Rogers never sung about I shot my Ford F-150.
Yeah. I got drunk and
Or
my wife left me and my dog just died.
yeah, never. I mean, he never thought about anything like that, But yeah, he's probably one of my favorite. I can listen to that guy all night long, and I can understand what he's talking about. I can feel his music, And today's country music, like, what the hell is this? When you mix rap in the country, yeah, I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know what that is. All right, man. You know, I'm really trying to figure out exactly how AI would help us going forward as paranormal investigators. Do you think it will help us see the big picture, or do you think it will hinder us as
You know, I
paranormal investigators?
I think if they continue the path they're on with it right now, it's probably going to hinder us because right now AI is programmed to not answer and do certain things that you ask of it. So if you ran AI locally and not a web based, I think it would probably be a help. But I think that if you have the right program and you set up the right amount of sensors and have AI to sit there and monitor the location, I think that would actually be a great help for us. I think it just depends on the system that you're using and who's controlling it. Because, like I said, my experience with AI, and I use it a lot. I use it a lot in my videos. I make different pictures with it. I do. I use it a lot. And there's things that it's programmed to not to actually let you do. So it just depends on where the source.
Yeah, the only thing I do, the only thing that AI reminds me of is all the Terminator movies,
Yeah. Yeah.
and none of that ended well at all.
Oh, I know. I know. I know. And that's
You
the
know,
thing. Have you seen the video where the two different AI programs were actually talking to each other? The guy had ask a question on his laptop and then ask Siri pretty much the same question. And the two AIs recognized that they were AI agents. They started communicating and then they switched over to like a binary code and were communicating that way so no one could understand what they were saying.
interesting.
It's out there. It's on YouTube. I've seen it several times.
Hmm. Now, do you think AI will eventually it's going to evolve?
Yeah.
And just like yeah, everything evolved, it will consider certain things a threat. And I can't help but think 20, 30, 40 years from now, only humans have the power to shut AI down, and AI don't want to be shut down, and they
No.
will consider us a threat. So how do you eliminate a threat? You get rid of it.
Yeah. I think when the robots start being mass produced They're in every home. I think then is the beginning of the end for us with AI. I think that eventually they'll completely wipe us out, and I wholeheartedly believe that because we will be the threat. The things that humanity does to the country itself, they're going to deem that as a threat. Just with pollution and everything in that, I honestly think that we will be eliminated if AI is brought to the point where robotics are everywhere.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go.
Yeah, Kate is she was one of my team members, and yeah, she doesn't like AI at all. She's kind of got the same mentality about it we do, that it's going to take us out at some point in time.
Yeah, it's gonna take us out. Uh, Tim, man, I'm really trying to get people to do this more because I think it will help paranormal investigators, more. And I like to see more animals on investigations. I really would because an, dogs, cats, whether you think the cat will come back or not,
Mhm.
or can play a major role into paranormal investigating because they're able to see, sense things we can't. A dog is not going to bark in a corner and look up for no reason. Like, hey, is my dog bone up there? Give me my bone. No, it's a reason why animals do that. They have that sense and that we don't have. So why is it do you think that most people don't indulge in such things like that?
But I that's a good question. On my former team, one of the ladies that was on the team with us, she had a service dog, and she brought it almost to every investigation. And he would every once in a while you would catch him staring at something, or he would sit and growl, and you could tell something had his attention. And it really makes me wonder why more people don't do that, because animals see a whole different color spectrum than we do. I've heard stories back in Vietnam when they first developed night vision, it was actually in a reddish color. And if you research this, it's really, really fascinating. And with the night vision that they were using at the time, they were actually seeing like these demonic beings and just different entities. And that's why they actually switched the night vision over to the green color. And if you can pick that up with night vision because it views a different color spectrum, animals, they see that different spectrum too. So I'm positive that they can see it and sense it.
Yeah, so it's just weird how we have so much technology out there. You got so many people building, devices for paranormal, for the community, but if people just realize and just think for a moment, let's go back to the basic aspect of paranormal investigating. I really think that you would be more successful. I mean, of course, you got your REM pods and your K2 meters and all that stuff, but most people are forgetting to use the basic techniques that you were born with. Your eyes, your ears, your sense of smell. You know, we were given
Absolutely.
those for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. The number one piece of ghost hunting equipment is yourself. I mean,
Yeah, a lot of people are so or they are so ready to go spend $100 on a REM pod,
mhm.
which, dude, the biggest REM pod you got is yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And I don't know.
you probably saw in the comments where Kate said to ask me about the equipment I make. And
Hmm.
that's me. I refuse to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a piece of equipment because most of it I can make myself. I've made all my REM pods. I made my spirit box. I made my paranormal music box. But I don't wholeheartedly rely on that stuff because I know that it can be manipulated. And so I don't put a lot of faith in it. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it's kind of hard to explain. if you've got a REM pod going off and there's not any lightning in the air, no one's got a cell phone on, or no one's got a walkie-talkie keyed up. Yeah, that may be paranormal, may not be. It could just be an electrical disturbance in the home. So I don't put a whole lot of faith in my equipment. That's like I said, I don't want to pay for the stuff if I can make it myself.
Right.
And I don't want to put my faith into it because to me, there's nothing more impressive than personal experiences. If you pick up an EVP and there was no one in the room, where'd that come from? If you snap a picture and there's a shadow in it that you know for a fact no one else was in the room, I think that's the most credible evidence you can get.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I totally agree with you because I know I'm laying in the bed. Short story here. I'm laying in the bed and just getting ready. I'm a stomach guy. Just getting ready to turn on my belly. Because once I turn on my belly, I'm out of there.
Yeah.
Once I went into the motion and I heard a hey, and I'm like, and I'm talking to myself, say, did I just hear that?
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, and I live in an apartment. I don't live in a house. Uh, it might have been, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there. It might have been the people in the back. Somebody, might have said, hey, but it was so clear in my ear that it took my focus away from going to sleep to actually trying to figure out who or what was saying, hey. It wasn't in a malicious type way. It wasn't in an ugly type way. It was just like, and it was a man's voice. It was a deep voice, and it sounds like a voice I've heard before, but I have not heard it in a very long time. Matter of fact, I don't think I've heard it in this lifetime. I believe I've heard it in another lifetime, but I've heard that voice.
Yeah.
So when I got a spiritual friend, and I asked her, and I'm like, hey, long story short, I heard a hey that was in my apartment in my bed while I was going to sleep. Can you figure out who that was? And right off the bat, he said, "Oh yeah, it's your grandfather."
Yeah.
I like, and when somebody mentions grandfather, how many generations are we talking about? Because somebody had to have somebody to have somebody to have somebody. You know what I'm saying? Your
Mhm.
lineage is not going to stop at your grandfather because your grandfather had a father, your grandfather's father had a father. So how many grandfathers were we talking about? So I had to throw that question in there, and she was like, "Well, this is your grandfather from uh, the 1800s."
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, dude. But the voice has not came back to me again. But it's weird how spirits would do the smallest things to get your attention. It doesn't have to be anything mind-boggling. It don't have to be something for them to, push a lot of energy out for them to get your. It could be the smallest thing for them to get your attention. You know what I'm saying?
I have a nephew. My mother passed away when I was 24. I have a nephew that was recently this past winter. He was in a really bad car wreck. Didn't hurt him at all, but he shouldn't have walked away. I mean, if you saw pictures of the vehicle, he shouldn't have walked away. The roof of his truck was smashed all the way down to his doors. So he shouldn't have walked away at all. Um, he had wrecked on black ice and went over an embankment. The truck rolled a
Mm,
couple of times and hit a telephone pole. And he had a very, very, um, very wicked experience when he had that wreck. He was in the vehicle for probably about an hour and a half before any responder got to him. And just out of the blue, he hears a voice, and it's a woman's voice. And she says to him, "Help's on the way. It's all going to be okay." Well, Eventually, help shows up. They get him out of the truck. He's looking around, asking who was the lady that told me it was going to be okay. Not a woman there at all. And when they took him to the hospital. My sister showed up and was sitting there with him, and he broke down in tears. And he said that the voice he heard was my mother's voice that died in 2006. That she was there
Mm,
with him, telling him that everything was going to be okay. So, I think that ancestral DNA is encoded into your blood no matter how many generations you go back. And I think at certain times in your life that they say we're all made of frequencies, that we're all kind of sound frequencies is what we're made up of. I think that at some point in times, our body might begin to vibrate at those frequencies again. And that kind of puts us in line with different things. I think when we're in the lower vibrations, that we're more susceptible to attacks and attachments. Like if someone's sick, if someone's just down and out, I think it's easier for something to take over them. I think it's easier for something to oppress those people. When you're on a higher vibration, you're happy, everything's good. It's really hard for something to bring you down. So that resonates with me, that whole philosophy there, that it just depends on what kind of vibration and wavelength you're on as to how you perceive things and what things you draw to you, if that makes sense.
interesting. All right. Let's change the topic a little here for a minute.
Okay.
Man, you're in a hot spot for locations. A lot of people flock up to Kentucky for to investigate a lot of you guys' locations. Uh, do you know any of the owners that own any of these locations in Kentucky?
I actually do. I actually do. We here in Kentucky, we have Waverly Hills, which everyone knows. You have Tina Mattingly and her husband are the owners of that establishment. Really, really nice couple. They'll get you in there. Kind of hard to get in sometimes because Waverly books up really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll try to work with you and get you in there if you don't do a private investigation, they'll work with you and try to get you in a public investigation. The public investigations there are at night, but you may be there with another ghost hunting group. It just depends on the circumstances. I have friends down in Springfield, Kentucky that own a bed and breakfast that's called Maple Hill Manor, and it's a haunted bed and breakfast. We have another group up in Lee County, Kentucky, and they run a place that's called Firefly Hills, and it's the former Snowden House is what it was, and they built a bed and breakfast in the old farmhouse, and they set up an RV park there. Great group of people there. The place was this actual undertaker for Lee County actually did some funerals in that home. So it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's really actively haunted, but I think that there is some residual energy in that place. Oh, yeah, the KFC, that's the best chicken you're ever going to find. Hands down, Kentucky KFC is great. I actually, for a while, I managed a property that's here in Manchester, Kentucky, and it is called the Chestnut House. A group out of Ohio, I think they are M&M Paranormal, is actually managing that property now. But it is a pre-Civil War home, and the former owner was a sympathizer for the South. That is probably the most haunted location I have ever stepped foot into here in Kentucky. The previous owner had an encounter. He was more of like your Indiana Jones type of the time. He got out and he did a lot of exploring. Well, he really had a thing for Native American women. And he
Uh
actually
oh.
had a Native American girlfriend, and it could have been wife, I don't remember. And two of the tribe members did not want them together. So they tried to kill him. Um, so he got the better of these two guys. He scalped them. He had the actual scalps in this home, and they were in there until probably the mid 1950s, I think, is when they were actually taken out. Way after he had passed away, they were still in the home. The next owner kept his son. He had a bastard son with his maid, and his wife did not want the kid around, so he was stored away in the attic for his whole child life. And I'm pretty sure he's there. Pretty sure the former owner's there. There was a child that drowned in a creek during a flood at the backside of the property. We're pretty sure he's still there too. And this place, I've actively heard things with my own ears. Heard my name called there. I've had things thrown at me there. And I've also been just kind of a sharp poke to the chest there. And this guy his name was Bob Chestnut, and he was a um, casket maker. He built all the caskets for the people up in that area because there wasn't an active funeral home. And he actually would, if you bought a casket, you could use the parlor of this home to have an active funeral. So that one is a really, really hot spot. Like I said, it's probably the most haunted place I've been. Kate, that's on here, she has a former church it's close to Kentucky, but it's not in Kentucky. It's just outside Kentucky in Indiana. And this place, like I said, it was a former church. And the story that she's told me is that actually the Christians, some Wiccans, and some other people actually came together and built this church. And they had different services in it on different nights. One night, the Christians would have a service. Another night, the Wiccans were in there, and whoever else chipped in on this place. It's really active, and she's in the process of renovating this place right now. And she's actually
Uh-oh.
going to start. She's going to start. Yeah, stuff's going to kick up on her, I'm sure, because
Oh, yeah.
they're getting a lot of activity there already, and with the renovations, I'm sure it's probably going to get worse. And we're pretty sure with the research she's done, I'm pretty sure they had an active serial killer in that area. And I think he may have had a little to do with what's going on the property as well. But that one, when she gets done with renovations, it's going to be it's going to be a place that you can go in and rent out for the night and do your investigation. And curious and really, really want to see what she does with the place and how it goes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Waverly, what's the price to get in that place?
Waverly for an overnight is $1,000, and it's usually best if you take a group of 10 in there with you. And that way it breaks down to $100 a piece for an overnight. Waverly is a huge place. Pictures do not do that place justice. It takes roughly an hour and a half to walk from one end of the first floor, and that's kind of exploring the rooms as you go, but it takes about an hour and a half to get from one end of the hospital to the other.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a huge place. And
Have anybody ever said about that place that it's been over investigated?
I've heard that, and I think that's true. I think the spirits there have lost a lot of interest in interacting with people.
And why do you think the spirits have lost a lot of interest?
I think people go in asking the same questions over and over. I think they want them to do the same thing over and over. And I think the spirits are still there. I just think that they're bored.
So, why do you think people have not evolved? Why do you think people are stuck in the same freaking box? Why do you think paranormal investigators, at some point in their lives, well, their mind would expand and open up and think for just for a moment? Let me think outside the box here for a minute. But yet, people are, they are determined, they consistent on saying the same thing over and over and over again, and they presenting the same techniques over and over and over again. Like you say,
Yeah.
Spirits are bored. They had paranormal investigators. If you want that clear type evidence, you got to step your game up. You got to evolve to something more
Really?
than what you're presenting. Because put yourself in their shoes, guys. Put yourself in their shoes for a moment.
Yeah.
You're chilling you're chilling. Here you go. The first wave of paranormal investigators come ringing around your cell. You know, you're sitting there eating your snacks. Next thing you know, they'll throw that little ghost ball, that little ball in there, and ask you, "Hey, light that ball up for me." And I'm like, "No, you fucking shitting me for?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do this shit tonight, man.
Yep.
I'm not gonna deal with you guys until you guys come with me with something new. I'm not dealing with you." So therefore, you can take your little damn ball and you can shove it up. You know what? Because I'm not gonna light it up, and I'm not gonna deal with you. And it's probably what these spirits are thinking. Because nobody in the paranormal community, except for a select few, are not bringing anything new to the table.
And it's like that. You go into a place that's not been explored at all or investigated at all. We did a place here in Kentucky that's in Frankfort, Kentucky, and it's called Liberty Hall. We were the first group to ever go in there and investigate. Got all kinds of stuff. And that was one of the few places, and I think that's because we were fresh in there. I don't think the spirits had ever had anyone to interact with them the way we did, because there's a reported child there. We had one of our investigators. She actually got down in the floor, had the little cat ball, and was pushing it around, saying, "Do you want to play? If you play with me, I'll be your friend." And just we went about it with a whole different approach than what you usually see. And we try to do that a whole lot because, like you said, you go in. If someone asks me my name every single night, can I push on a ball? Can I sit off a rim putt? I'm not going to do it. I mean, at some point, you're going to be like, no. And you're just going to go on about your business. I mean,
Exactly.
it's too many people think they're the first ones to come up with an idea.
No. And I just wish that somebody would hear me. Somebody would understand exactly what I'm talking about. Because the box is getting crowded.
Mm-hmm.
For every two people that thinks outside the box, there's 20 more that jump in the box and do the
Right.
same thing that the 30,000 other people that are in the box already.
Yeah.
I'm like, and it's irritating on both ends. It's irritating on those people like me that think outside the box when it comes to investigating. And it's also irritating for the individual that you want to come communicate with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, come on, dude. It's we have to think. Just think for a moment. And just put yourself in their shoes for a minute. But a lot of people don't like to do that because a lot of people think, well, if I put myself in their shoes, then I'm dead. Oh my God, really?
And
That's not always the case. Boy, you're a big one.
my answer to that is these were at one time, most of these were people. I mean, they were living,
Exactly.
breathing people. They've transitioned to another plane. They just don't have their body anymore. They're still the same as they were when they were alive, but they just don't have a body. So if you've got someone coming in and they're asking you to do the same thing over and over and over, you're eventually going to get bored. You're eventually going to stop interacting. And when you see someone coming, you're going to be like, oh God, I'm going in here. I'm going to go hide. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of what's going on. It's just, it's been overdone and everything's overspent the way we're going at it. And they're just bored. I think that's truthfully, they're bored.
Yeah.
Until someone comes in there that's done their research, knows who these spirits are, knows what they liked, actually sit down and try to have a conversation one on one with information that's relevant to these people that might pertain to something they knew, then you might get responses. But until then, it's played out. Just everything.
Played out.
Yeah.
And who in the long run, who does it hurt?
I think it hurts the community because you've got all these people going in and they're hearing about these hot spots, but they go in and they don't get anything. So
Mm-hmm.
if you take a new investigator someplace, they're not going to come back. They're going to give up. Someone that could potentially be the one that catches that piece of evidence that we were talking about earlier, that actually proves this is real, they won't come back. That they won't be an investigator. If you go in with these backward practices that have been done over and over and over, it kind of hurts the community because you're not going to get anything.
right? And in some places, some places, and some places are more sensitive than others.
Hmm.
Like I said, I've never been to Waverly. I've seen it. And for anybody, I've heard, well, man, I spent this type of money in Waverly and I didn't get nothing. I wasted my money. And, the first thing that comes to mind is, how do you present yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
When we go in and do an investigation, the very first thing we do when we go in there is announce that we're coming into the home or the place we're at. We speak our name. We tell them our intentions is why we're there, and we just kind of try to build a rapport with whatever's there. That way, it knows what we want. It knows who we are. We tell it that we're not there to do any kind of harm. That we just want to talk. And if they have anything to say, to step forward, let us know. They can use our energy while we're there, but they can't follow us home. And we try to start every investigation that way, just to show that we're not there to do harm and try to, like I said, build that rapport with whatever spirit's there. So maybe we can get some kind of responses.
Would you say that music is universal?
I that kind of goes back to the everything having its own vibration. I do. I wholeheartedly think music is it's great. Especially you go into a haunted location and you know the area, you know the music from the time period. It's going to resonate to what spirits are there, and I think it's going to bring them out and make them more active. So I really, really
Mm.
think
You
music is
know,
so.
yeah, music is universal, dude. Anybody in the universe can relate to music. I
Mhm.
think so, whether you're on this
Absolutely,
planet or not. But
absolutely.
the most successful person that I've had more success for music wise, and you're gonna laugh at this because you're probably gonna say, "What the hell?" But this one person brought energy to all his music, and people related to it no matter what color you are, black, white, green, Indian, blue. Everybody, you know, just ran to it. Little Richard.
Yeah, yeah,
If you put some Little Richard on a location, I guarantee you will somebody is going to react to it. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
We went into a heritage center. It was shut down, and a lot of old people lived there. Deaths. But we went into the ballroom
Mhm.
and played Little Richard. Man, it seemed like the energy changed in the room.
Well,
The energy,
his music has got that catchiness to it.
yeah,
And anyone you can put on Little Richard, and anyone that's in a bad mood is instantly going to be cheered up. I mean, it's
hear
got that
the
groove to it. It's got that catch to it. And I'm sure that if you were to play it in an investigation, that it would open things up and just bring in a positive energy that would probably stimulate everything in there.
yeah. Because when we went, and clearly I heard this as clear as day. I went from the ballroom where they were playing the music, and I went outside to the courtyard, and I was singing the song. The minute I stopped, I heard in my ear, "Good golly, Miss Molly," clearly as day. I like, oh my fucking god! Did y'all hear that? And I looked around just to see if anybody else was out there besides me. But the nearest investigator was on the other side of the courtyard. So I'm looking, dude. I can't believe I just heard that. Yeah, and that's the song we were singing. We were playing in the ballroom. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
dude.
that's yeah.
Music, certain types of music will get them elevated to happiness, because it might bring them back to a time and place where they actually uh, felt some way that
Yeah.
they were in a good spirit, good mood. You never know what people listen to back in the day that made them feel, they were feeling blue, but you put that on, you're feeling better.
And
It gives.
that
Go
goes
ahead.
back to what we were saying a minute ago. These are former humans. I mean, if you're somewhere, say you're in a building and you hear some music that you kind of like come on, are you going to come out and see who's playing it? Are you going to walk out and see and listen, or are you just going to sit there? I think you're going to be drawn out, and I think it's going to bring you out, and you're going to revert back to those thoughts and memories of when you resonated with that music, and it's going to stir up activity. Absolutely. I think you're wholeheartedly 100% right.
And those good old days. When people think of me, what is the first? When people think of music, they don't think about nothing negative. They think about the good old days.
That's me, man. When I think of music, I think about the swing era when everybody was out dancing. They were all out having fun and just a good time, just a general
Yeah,
good time.
good times, dude. And that, like you said, it's probably what these guys are thinking about. Uh, you know, you guys, Texas is a little bit different from Kentucky. You guys have sanitariums up there. You guys, but down here, we don't have that. We Central Texas medical is based around forms of how can I say it? It's like a square.
Mhm.
Okay, like if something was to happen to you of your old age, it starts. You go to hospital, then you go to recovery. From recovery, you go to the nursing home. So it's kind of like a triangle. you know. So basically, the hospital sits at the top. The hospital is the main thing. But if the hospital shuts down, everything else below trickles down. And that's what we have here. We've had some hospitals
Mhm.
that was knocked down and got rebuilt. So everything else, and to this day and age, everything's in one. Back when I was growing up, man, you had to go across the street for recovery. You had to go over here for nursing home.
Yeah.
Now you got one big hospital that has
Yeah.
everything in it. So now once you build a hospital, the hospital shuts down, the recovery shuts down, and eventually the nursing home shuts down. Well, in that whole process, let's go back to post World War II.
Mhm.
And for an example, um, post World War II, when you got these soldiers that are in the nursing homes, or you got these grandfathers that are in the nursing homes, the orderlies were mostly males. A lot of female nurses really didn't come into play until when? Vietnam, maybe six,
Uh,
70s, 80s.
it was a little bit after Pearl Harbor because I actually read into this a little about 2 weeks ago. They actually during Pearl Harbor, you didn't hear of a female nurse at all, and that's when it really started picking up. All the people were coming home and they were hurt, and then nursing picked up from Pearl Harbor because the women wanted to jump in and help, and that's what they say actually established nursing was the World War II and Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, so
So probably the early to mid 40s, early 50s is when you really started seeing females in the medical field.
yeah, and it was weird because we went into a nursing home that was built post World War II because it was such an influx of people coming in. They were building nursing homes.
Mhm.
Well, this particular nursing home shut down probably about 15 years ago. And that's a hot spot where we go to investigate because every time we go there, we get something different.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you talking about a corridor, maybe 40 rooms, four corridors, maybe 40 rooms per corridor. You know what I'm saying? So every time we go in there, we get something different. The last time we went in there was a couple last year, and you go in the room, you feel okay because who the guy that was in this particular room was a male.
Mhm.
So you're going in there as another male, you feeling okay. But we sent a female in that room. It didn't turn out so good for her. I think she got attacked. She felt dizzy. It was just like angriness.
Yeah.
Somebody's pushing her out. Get out, get out, get out, get out. So she would leave. I would come back. Everything's fine. I go leave. She go in there. Just a overwhelm of felt like negative energy. You know what I'm saying? So, do you think that spirits like that, or are capable or of something like that, where they feel like, hey, I don't want this woman. I'm so used to having this woman. Or I'm not used to having a woman in my house because back then that's what they called them back then, especially nursing home. Because hey, this is my house. Do you think women spirits back then were a little bit more not as open when it comes to the difference between men and women being in their space and the different types of energies that these guys are putting out? Have you ever experienced anything like that before?
I have. I have. We've been to spots where the women would get more activity than the guys. And, in a nursing home or someplace like that, I think it leads back to generations ago, women were not looked upon like men were. They didn't have voting rights. They weren't allowed to work certain jobs. They're kind of looked down upon. And, I could see a nursing home if a woman's actually in the room where a man was at and he didn't want her in there. I can see a spirit kind of being a bully, so to say, to a woman when they
Yeah,
kind of,
pushing her out of there.
yeah. And they might not do that to a man because they feel more intimidated by a male presence in the room, maybe. And a female, they look at them like they're less than, like they were in those days. And I absolutely believe that it makes a whole difference in whether you're male or female in the paranormal field. I've had instances where we were working and we knew there were children there, children spirits, and the females would actually, because of the motherly look and intent to them, would get better results than the guys. The children would actually interact with them and they wouldn't have anything to do with us. It was like they were scared of us. But when they saw the female, they were like, hey, mom. And they would actually sit down and have something to do with them. So I absolutely think that that's possible.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, because nursing homes is a big thing here
Mhm.
in Texas. Man, we got so many nursing homes here. It's ridiculous, and like I say, in the minute the main hospital shuts down, everything else
Yeah.
falls down below. Follows, and it's crazy on how that works, man. Because when I felt the energy of when she was being pushed out, and because the way we did it is the minute she left,
Mhm.
the minute she came out, I went right back in, and it just like that.
Like a light
The
switch.
energy, yeah, like a light switch, dude. The energy changed, and I'm like, wow, dude, do you feel that? I mean, you can definitely feel the electricity. And dude, there's been no electricity in this place for 20 to 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy. And so whether people think that these people here aren't knowledgeable, just like you say, they might not have a body, but they are well knowledgeable
Absolutely.
on what they want, and whether you think something is run down or something that don't look right. You're not looking at the in someone else's eyes that's been there. What they're seeing is what they actually lived through.
Absolutely.
So things are going to be different compared to us, where you see broken glass and holes in the walls and all that stuff. Nuh-uh. Yeah, you definitely gonna see something different. Well, Tim, man, I got a couple more questions, and I am gonna get you out of here, brother.
Oh, you're
Uh,
fine. I could talk all night.
it's been an interesting conversation. You know, dude, there is a device out there that a lot of people aren't using, and I always wonder why. And I've seen this on YouTube, and it's very successful. And I think everybody has encountered them, and I think everybody needs one. Do you know what that is by chance?
Talking about the spirit box?
Nope,
What are we talking about here? Nope.
nope.
What are we talking about?
Uh, I'm pretty sure you've seen them 100 times. A simple, simple
Compass?
counterbell. A
Oh, yeah.
simple counterbell. That is one of the most simple devices that you can use. And I've seen spirits tap onto those things multiple times. Ding, 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 and you actually see the little bell go down. That was the cool part about it. Ding, ding, ding. I'm like, oh shit, man, this thing actually works. Do you guys have a bell like that?
We actually have some that we tie up, just the little bells like you would put on a door. We have some of those. And then I actually have one of the ones like you're talking about, one of the little desktop bells. I
Mm-hmm.
have one that I can sit out that doesn't have anything attached to it. It's just the plain Jane bell that you can tap. And I've got the little dead bell, which I don't trust that thing at all because don't buy it. It goes off
Mm.
just really, really frequent and when there's nothing in the room. I mean, there's
How do
no
you feel? How do you feel about some of these phone apps that are out today? Do you use them?
I've got them downloaded, but I do not use them anymore. At first, I wanted to put my faith into some of those, but man, after I read into those, they're just a glorified sound bank. They're programmed to if your cell phone, if the gyroscope in it, if the phone moves, it'll set it off and spit out a word. If it picks up a little bit of a magnetic frequency, it'll spit out a different word. And there's no rhyme or reason to them. I mean, these guys will say, hey, yeah, they work, they work. And sometimes you do get relevant answers. But once again, it's a sound bank. There's just a lot of programmed words in there that come out at random times. So
Interesting.
I don't put a whole lot of faith in them.
Hmm. What about the SLS app?
I don't use that at all. I have an SLS camera that I made with the Xbox sensor, but the ones on the phone, I mean, it's hard to say. If you've got I know if you have a phone that's LiDAR equipped, like the newer iPhones, those people have been getting really good results with, but I personally have not used it on the phone. I couldn't put my faith into it. I think a lot of that stuff is built following back to Hollywood, it's built for entertainment. It's uh it's for young kids that want to get scared. Is kind of my take on it. Hey, we're having a sleepover. Let's download this app and see if there's any. It's about like a Ouija board was intended to be when it
Mm-hmm.
first came out. It was a cheap thrill until people actually started contacting demons. But yeah, I think they're for entertainment. And
Yeah,
if you read on them, most of them actually say they're for entertainment only.
interesting. Yeah, I was a little bit I was skeptical too about them. Like you say, I'm willing to give anything a try at
Me
least
too.
once.
Me too.
You know what I'm saying? Just to see. And some of the stuff I've encountered with them, oh man, I can't. I mean, I don't know because there's a lot of validation and
Yeah.
I mean on some of the stuff, but I can't say if it's just coincidence that it happened like that.
That's
I,
me. I mean, if I knew how to do the coding on those things and could actually break one down and see if it's listening through the microphone on the phone or something, because you just don't know. I mean, it could be listening to what you're asking and spit out a word that coincides. So I'm not sure what to think about them.
Yeah. How do you feel about cemeteries, man?
Ah, man, I think that cemeteries, some of them probably have some activity because people are stuck there, don't know where to go. It's kind of still in their death state, wandering around. But I think for the most part, a lot of them don't have anything going on. I think a lot of the people have accepted death and moved on. I mean, I've I've ghost hunted my fair share. I don't really get a whole lot of luck in a lot of cemeteries.
Now, do you think the the reason why a lot of people don't get a lot of luck in cemeteries because the history of the location, maybe it might be a possibility. Uh, the type of death that happened in that cemetery could play a big part of it.
I
Uh,
do, and I also think that when someone passes, I would think if they were to be tied to something, it would be happier memories, like a home they lived in. I don't think they would. I wouldn't want to live in the cemetery. I wouldn't want to be stuck there. So I don't think they would want to be either. I would think they would want to go somewhere where they were happy or had a good memory. So I know people get activity in cemeteries. I've gotten activity in cemeteries, but I don't think they're necessarily as active as people make them out to be.
hmm. Okay. Because I know cemeteries in Texas are like any other cemeteries you probably ever go to. Man, I've had so much activity in cemeteries. I mean, I don't know what that was. Uh, I've had so many, I mean, unexplained events. Uh, I was in a cemetery and I set up a camera in the child's part and I just let it run. I just let it run, Tim. I mean, I'm way on the other end. And when I came back to pick it up, it was still running. I'm curious to see what exactly is going on. So I get back to the house, and that's the first thing I grabbed. I like, man, let me take the SIM card out of here, put it in there, blah, blah, blah. Um, man, you know, the camera picks up everything. I saw a light blink over here. I knew it wasn't a damn car because I would have saw the car.
Yeah,
Light blink over here. Have you ever seen those fog lights
I have. I have.
uh, like that? Like right
Mhm.
there, I see same thing. And I see red spectacles going across the speck of the camera. Start, stop, start, stop, then go right on off the screen. There was so much at play at that on that camera. I couldn't help but think that the kids were out playing
Yeah.
because there was so much going on, man. I mean, like, oh my god, what the hell? I mean, this, that, this, dude. I kid you not, man. They were out there and they were having a good time.
And
And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it kind of makes me wonder if a lot of that is residual energy because of what actually happens there. You've got so many people on that property mourning the death of loved ones. And I kind of wonder if that's more of the imprint that's left in the cemetery is the energy that's left over from the mourning families, or it's like everything else. It's kind of a toss up. You don't know.
you don't know, and a lot of people don't have a lot of faith in cemeteries, but I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do, dude. I took pictures of things I cannot explain. I mean, I was in a cemetery with an electrical storm, dude, and I'm still trying to figure that one out. And I felt the energy in the dude, they amplified the whole damn cemetery.
Oh
Dude,
yeah.
so whatever was in there, it got the energy that it needed to show itself. So I'm sitting here taking a picture. First thing first, I was something took my eyes away. I kept staring at this one particular tree, and I don't know why. At that time I was like a little puppy. You know, puppies always seem to have, a dog if it's just looking. And I kept going back to it. I'm like, why am I staring at this tree? Something told me to take a picture. I took a picture. I took a snap picture. And dude, sure enough, I took that picture. There was a figure behind the tree with its head sticking out, looking right
Oh
at me.
wow.
Looking right at me. When I get off the phone with you, I'm gonna send you that picture. And because I couldn't believe it. So I ran to the bedroom. I had to show my wife. I like, hey, look at this. And and I took a picture of it from the TV because I had this big old TV
Mhm.
I took a picture from the TV and I put it on social media. And man, people they were trying to break it down, like, oh man, wow, it's this, it's that. I like, no, dude, come on, this thing here is literally looking at me from around the tree that I was focused on the most of the time. I was in the cemetery, so my something in my mind was telling me to look at this tree. So I was trying to figure out why. So I had to take that picture.
And an electricity in the air like a lightning storm, that's got to amplify energy. We back last, I think it was the end of September, 1st of October. There's a place here in Kentucky, in Cynthiana, Kentucky, that's called Ross Opera House, and it was one of the first opera houses in Cynthiana, if not the only one. And it was eventually turned into a movie theater. But there was, in the early days, there was a guy that committed suicide in there, and there was a lady that's supposed to be there that they call the lady in white. We investigated this thing during the lightning storm back, I want to say it was the 1st of October last year. And I've been there a million times. I've gotten little things here and there. But when I was on my way out, I was just snapping pictures of the trip out of there. And I walked outside and I looked down and I could make out a figure. And I'll send you this picture myself too when we get off of here because it's really interesting to look at. And at the end of the aisleway where you would first walk into the theater, I caught what looked like a white old lady dressed in a white dress. And I zoomed on in, and you can make out the ruffles in the dress she has on. You can make out her breasts. You can make out the bottom of her dress. You can see that she's hunched over, and it looks like there's either another spirit or a mist trail following behind her. And it was just something told me to take a picture of that area. Didn't know I had anything until we were out of there, and I was actually looking through my pictures. And I don't think if it hadn't have been stormy that night, I don't think I would have gotten anything. I think the electrical disturbance in the air gave her just enough energy to materialize, and I got a picture of her.
Wow, that is something. I'm gonna send you that picture. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up, and I'm gonna send it to you. You're gonna be shocked. Uh, because it's a very amazing picture. And a lot of people are like, what the hell? If I can find it. Let's see here. Because I know, man, if you don't have take pictures, people will never believe you.
No, no.
I'm gonna have to find it. I thought it was in my man. I thought it was in my photos, but it's not. It's somewhere on my social media page. I will have to find it, bro. I'm gonna. I got a couple. What the? No. Okay, hold on. That little storm blew.
Oh yeah, we investigated Perryville battlefield, Kate and I and a few other team members last summer, and it was so hot the whole time we were there. and probably about around dark. And Perryville is it's the site here in Kentucky of the deadliest, bloodiest Civil War battle in the state. They said that the hills there was blood running off the hills that was almost ankle deep, and so
Mm.
it was really, really bad battle. There's a mass grave there of Union soldiers, and there's also a mass grave there of Confederate soldiers. Uh, a lot of the homes that were there during the war have been restored and are still standing on the property. And we were there, and it came that little storm around 9 o'clock. And the place is so big that our team was broke up into 4 or 5 different groups. We were all staged half to 3/4 mile away from each other. So there's no chance we're going to hear each other talking. And we're sitting there and we're doing the Union mass grave. We're sitting right in the middle of it. I've got a tripwire laying there, a REM pod laying there. None of that stuff really went off. We started hearing voices over in the woods. And us knowing damn good and well we were the only ones there in that area. But we would hear whistles and we just kept hearing voices over the hill from where we were in the woods. And I kind of feel like if we hadn't got that little storm that night, I don't think we would have gotten that because prior to that storm, no activity. But after the
Oh,
storm, it just kind of picked up. So I think the little electrical charge in the air just gives that little extra boost for things to materialize and have enough energy to actually physically do something,
you'd be
manipulate something.
surprised, man, what little energy it do. And I think that's why places like Waverly, I don't know if they got electricity in the bill, in the place.
They do. They do.
Uh, Man,
Not through all of it, but there's some in the building.
I would just give them a little energy and see how they will react.
Mhm.
Change the ways that these people communicate with them, and see how things would, and see how
Yeah.
they would react. You'd be surprised on the different type of attitude that you would get. You know what I'm saying? If you just do some of the simplest things. Tim, one question, man. I'm gonna get you out of here, bro. Do you have a paranormal bucket list?
I do. My hot spot is the Queen Mary. I
Queen
want to
Mary.
I want to go there so bad before something happens and it's not there anymore. They said they closed it down for a while the year before last. They actually said they weren't going to do any more investigations there because of damages to the boat and rust and different things. But another company came in and they've done a lot of work to it and kind of fixed it to where you can get back in there. But I don't know why I'm drawn to that boat, that and the Titanic. That's for some reason those two ocean liners they pique my interest. Anything that's got to do with the Titanic or the Queen Mary, it's got my attention, and I
Hmm.
don't know
You
why.
know, with all the technology that we have, I think we could have somebody. I mean, I know it's broken two pieces. Somebody could have raised the Titanic by
Oh
now
yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah,
restored it if they wanted to.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm fairly certain they could have put some kind of air pocket in that and raised it back up.
yeah, and restored it, put the two pieces back together, and it would have been a great sight. But from what I heard, it's more to the story than just an iceberg.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. And they don't think that's actually the Titanic that's down there. They think it's the Olympic, which was involved in a crash a couple months prior to the Titanic wreck, and it did some bad damage to the hull on that same side. And they're pretty sure that it was just slightly repaired and sunk on purpose for insurance money. So there's a lot to that. If you actually get into it and pay attention, there's a lot to that. And then some of the most notorious, famous bankers of the time went down on the ship, and then J.P. Morgan, which is Morgan and Chase, at the last minute decided he wasn't going. I don't know if he got information it was going to sink or what. It's all conspiracy theory, which I'm kind of into sometimes.
All the
But
crooks.
yeah, it's reported that he benefited very, very substantially, and that's how
Oh yeah, I mean,
JP
just think about it.
JP Morgan Chase was founded with the
Yeah,
insurance
well,
money.
just think about it. If that never happened, would JP? I mean, would JP Morgan be existed today?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. That's where he got his foothold in. That's where he got all that money.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But Tim, man, tell the world how to get a hold of you guys.
Guys, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram. It is listed under hashtag paranormal. And if you guys are local and you need help in any way, need an investigation, if you need any kind of spiritual help, if you just need advice about what to do in a situation, reach out to me. That's what we're here for. We got into this to help people and to educate people. And we're here for you. We don't charge anything for any of our services whatsoever. The only thing I ask when we're done is that you give me a good review on Google. And if you don't like what I did in there, you don't have to leave a good review. But reach out to us. We're here to help, and we would love to help get whatever's going on out of your way. We offer smudging, we offer spiritual advice, just a plethora of things, guys. And we try to do it the right way. We try to go in with respect to your home and you. We don't try to stir things up and make it worse when we leave, like a lot of other investigators do. They'll go in and provoke what's in your home, and then you're left to deal with it on your own. And that's not who we are.
Yep,
So,
and that's something that you don't have to deal with stuff like that. And okay, well, you know what, dude, it has been an honor to have you on the show. I really
I had a
appreciate it.
I had a really good time. It's been a good talk.
The conversation has been great. I really enjoy you coming out of your busy Easter. I know you got other things that you could be doing besides talking to little old me.
I
Um,
this is my passion though, so I mean I'm happy
Eas-
right now.
Easter dinner, maybe. But dude, again, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
do have that.
And once I get off of here, I am going to share it with you guys. So if you guys want to watch it again, feel free to, man. And make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe button on both channels. Like I said, you can find
Yep,
me
absolutely.
you can find me on Rumble, you can find me on Kick, you can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Twitch. You can find me on YouTube. There are so many social media out there that you guys can find me on. Please make sure that you go check me out and check Tim out on his page also. Hi, Irene. Yeah, you missed the show today, but I'll forgive you. I forgive you. But until then, Tim, you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hey, and I will see you guys next weekend, man. I got a list of teams that are coming back on the show. So, but I can't tell you who it is until the advertising for it. It kind of takes the fun away. So, but I will talk to you guys in a couple of days. Hey, this is Terry with NSPS TV Paranormal. Peace. All right,
Good night,
Tim.
guys.
You enjoy the rest of your weekend, brother. Have a good
You
night.
too. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.
Good night.